hello, and welcome back to another edition of the Talk Nats podcast. My name is Kevin Nibley, and we are sponsored by Old DC Apparel. Head on over to shopoldDC.com for the coolest, most original DC fan gear that you're going to find. It's the kind of stuff you go out to a bar, you go to a game, people notice it, people ask you where you got it. It's just starting up, but we're starting to get some customers, starting to get a little bit of buzz. So be on the upswing. Go to shopoldDC.com and be one of the first people to get in on this trend. You can subscribe to our show. The video version is on YouTube at Talk Nats Podcast. That's also our handle on X. And the audio version is available on pretty much any podcast platform. Just search Talk Nats Podcast. So I feel bad. We were doing a failed rebuild series with our good friend Bryan King, and we had to bump him for Drew Storen and Tyler Clippard. I think that's going to probably be a rule moving forward on this show, is when we get the former players, we move them to the front of the line. No offense to anyone who wasn't a former player, but I'm sure you understand that that's how we're probably going to roll with it. But we didn't want to leave Bryan hanging. So we're coming back to end our last part of the failed rebuild series and also talk about the Mackenzie Gore trade, which happened just a week ago. The only other disclaimer, I'm still working out my setup here in my office. I have this pretty nice little office. I'm a television editor. I have this monstrosity of a desk that raises and lowers. You can put a treadmill underneath. It's just this couple 100-pound monster mechanical desk. I can't really move. And the first couple episodes, you're looking at my closet door and my bathroom door and my office behind me. And I was kind of getting sick of that. So doing some green screen things to get another wall of my office in behind me that has some of my memorabilia. I'm not really happy with the green screen I got, so I had to return it. So this week is without a green screen. It's a little blotchy. It's like a whole thing. It's like a whole production. But, we're kind of a new old show. We're working this out, and I'll have it figured out soon enough. But anyway, without further ado, the final part of our failed rebuild series with my favorite Nats hot taker, Bryan King. Okay, I am rejoined by Bryan King. Last we spoke, we were talking about the failed rebuild, and before we could even finish the series, I had to bump you for Drew Storen and Tyler Clippard. I apologize about that, but
understandable.
But before we could even finish the failed rebuild series, Mackenzie Gore got traded. What were your thoughts on that move? How did you feel about what the Nats got back?
I mean, I think trading him was the right move. Why would you hold on to him for 2 more years when he's a Boris client and he's just going to walk in free agency,
Yeah.
So why not get something now when he's at his peak value in theory? I don't love what they got back for him, but it's hard to know what the other offers were. You just kind of feel like an 18-year-old shortstop prospect, but they just drafted an 18-year-old shortstop. I mean, I understand these people are going to move somewhere else in the diamond, of course.
Yeah.
But they didn't get anyone in the top 100 prospect lists. A lottery card pitcher that had elbow issues, but for some reason didn't get Tommy John for a year. And
that one's a little interesting that they waited a year. Yeah, he was a top 50 prospect, I think, a year ago, but then I guess he missed last season injured, but just had TJ now. I don't know if it was a misdiagnosis. That's something be interesting to kind of really pull the curtain back on what happened there. Why didn't pitch for a year? Yeah.
I don't know how much they do medical evaluations on trades like that for prospect. If it was a big league starter, you'd assume they got their team all checking them out and they feel good. But I don't know if that's if that's the case or so. But either way, it's kind of weird that he sat for a year, didn't get the surgery, finally got the surgery. You're just like, why didn't you get it right away? What's going on? You would have loved to get at least one top 100 prospect, someone that's a little bit higher up. So I don't love the return, but overall, I think you had to move them. I think it makes sense.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's one of those things where I guess, yeah, the half empty would be there are no top 100s. The half full is you could say that Rosario was a top 100 and Fiend will probably be one. So, but yeah, it's like a little it's an interesting trade where I've seen a lot of Nats fans think it's light, but then also I've seen Rangers fans think they gave up way too much. So, who knows? It's definitely this will be, I guess, an early evaluation of Taboni is a scout, his kind of ability to find these diamonds in the rough. This will be an interesting trade to look back on in a year or two to see if some of these guys are flying through our system or if they, stall out like the Elijah Greens or the Dickersons or some of these other guys that we've had the last few years. But I've also been seeing some rumors that CJ is might be next, that the Yankees might want him. I think I saw that the Giants made an offer. I think in last episode you were saying we should probably move on from CJ, but I guess if you were Taboni, would you move him now? I mean, do you think that might be too much for the fan base to move Gore and CJ, in the month or so leading up to the season, or does that not even matter to you?
I mean, it doesn't matter a whole lot to me. I think a lot comes down to how they evaluate him. Is it first half of the season CJ or second half? Because you
Yeah, yeah.
have like, half a good year and then half a bad year. Um, so, if you think you can coach him up and get him to perform at that level all the time, then, I could see again maybe holding on to him, seeing if he has a monster first half, maybe again trading him at the midseason. I don't know. Something to think about.
Yeah, no, it's with CJ, he's probably not your long-term shortstop. So if he's not, if he's going to be a guy that maybe you have to move to second, I mean, to me, I just feel like that to me would start the conversation. You'd have to go to him and see how he feels about coming off short. And then that maybe would inform whether you want to move him or maybe you see a world where you could fold him in at second base or maybe even like get him an outfielder's glove and see how he is in left or something. I don't know. I mean, but that to me, I guess would start the conversation with CJ. Like he's obviously not a shortstop, right? He's got a good bat and he can steal some bases, but he's not a shortstop. So where does he want to play? Does he want to stay? And if he doesn't want to stay, if he's insist on being a shortstop, then maybe we see who wants to take him, or because I'm sure these teams trading for him or that are talking about him are probably thinking about him for second base and not short. But I guess we'll see. But I guess with that move Taboni made for Mackenzie Gore, it wasn't he didn't get any guys except for Ortiz who maybe figured into the first base mix. But certainly wasn't a headliner. You didn't really get any guys that were close. You got an 18-year-old, some 20-year-olds. It seems to suggest that the team's not ready to compete anytime soon. I mean, how do you feel about that? Do you think that what the Nats are doing is basically they're just riding it out until the next CBA and going from there?
I think that trading Gore was more of a sign than how young the prospects are, right? Because
Yeah.
like, just accumulating young kids doesn't mean necessarily that like, well, we're punting it until these 18-year-olds, 6 years down the line are ready at age 24,
Mm.
because you could always flip them for major league ready help. But I think if you're trading away your best pitcher right now, then that probably means you don't think you're going to compete in the next 2 or 3 years, right? Because otherwise you'd be trying to add
Yeah.
some more guys. So knowing the learners, my hunch is, yeah, everyone's kind of in a wait and see mode. And so it's like, all right, let's get some kids in here, coach them up, and then see where the chips fall after, the CBA.
Yeah. No, I feel that I've seen some rumors. I don't know where the rumors came from. I mean, I don't know if it's literally from a source or if it's just from people on Twitter X just theorizing. But I've seen a few things this week that maybe we'd be in on Lucas Giolito or Zach Littell or some guys like that. Where to me, if they got one of those guys to come back, as a free agent, then that maybe they're not punting. Maybe that means they basically just flipped. Gore was like a 4 ERA pitcher. They get a guy like Giolito or Littell. That's kind of maybe not, they don't have the upside that Gore could potentially have, as he's still ascending, but that's kind of a 1-for-1 trade or close enough that then maybe it's not so dire. But yeah, I do think the starting pitching is going to tell you what's happening this year because it's like if they go in to West Palm and don't add and our rotations, Cavalli, Gray, Brad Lord, Jake Irvin and Foster Griffin, I believe, is the dude they got from Korea. I mean, if that's our starting five right now. If we don't add like a bigger name to that, then I think it's going to be Operation 2028 at the earliest, unfortunately.
I mean, I do think, I think we spoke about this the last pod is, it is important, I think, you don't want to just breed a losing culture. Like,
Mhm.
I think you want to compete. Like players want to compete, like it doesn't mean you're going all in and trying to win the division, but man, like at least strive for 500,
Yeah, yeah.
it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to tank in baseball because of the way they do all the weird draft seeding stuff. And um, so yeah, I think in my mind, it makes sense. Yeah, get some vets in here, teach these young kids, set an example, build a
Yeah.
winning culture. I think who was it? Drew Storm was on with the pod about the impact of Jason Worth. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
like, well, I think that makes a big deal. It's a big deal to these young players that don't really have that example. So
I was sorry to preempt you, but I feel like we work in the story industry. I feel like we're slowly building a story with this podcast where in your episode, you're talking about how the Nats needed a Jason Worth type. And then we literally had a guy, Drew and Tyler come on and say, yeah, Jason Worth was the guy who did all this for us. So it's kind of nice to have the actual people who are there validate some of the things that we're saying. Like it might be good to have some veteran leadership to guide them.
especially when you have a very young coaching staff, very inexperienced coaching staff, I think you need someone that's going to have command some respect in that locker room and kind of police the players a little bit, set the standard, and yeah, I think I think that would be important. And
So they are I saw that they like packed the bus or the trailer or whatever and they're sending the equipment down to West Palm. What are your expectations for the coming season? And I know that this series, the kind of failed rebuild series we were doing, was like a touch on a negative side, perhaps. But I mean, truth. I don't think we said anything that was untrue. But I guess if we're looking for rays of sunshine, what as a Nats fan are you looking forward to this year? Or what are some positives you can draw from where the franchise is?
I mean, I think you're just looking for signs that this new front office and the new coaching staff like have what it takes.
Hmm.
So you want to
Yeah.
see progress from the prospects. I think I'm looking almost more at what the minor league teams are doing this season
Mm.
than what the major league team is doing. And yeah, I think at the major league level, you just want to see, are they improving on like the fundamentals, the defense, like just the little things that, again, you're not expecting any of these kids to go out there and rake, like hit 300 with like 30 home runs, but you're like, yeah, I think
Yeah. Yeah.
they have the right approach to the plate. Are they, not running into outs or doing dumb stuff? Are they playing hard defense or playing hard? And I think, you kind of want to see that out of the pitchers, like looking like they're showing some improvement, or regressing like they did last year. You want to see them not regress, obviously, because then
Yeah.
again,
Yeah. Yeah.
so, build some trust that, okay, these guys can develop players. And so then, yeah, when you make these kind of trades, like for Gore, then you're not like, oh, we didn't get anyone top 100. You're like, well, we'll coach him up. Because I know, as a part-time Dodgers fan, married to a super Dodgers, like they have utmost trust. They're like, they'll get back these guys we've never heard of, like these prospects, not on anyone's radar. And then 2 years later, they're in the top 100, like so you just know whoever they're getting, they're going to fix them up.
Mhm.
Uh, and it's kind of like that with Rizzo for those years when he was in his prime, when you get like a Tanner Roark and you're like, I don't know who this guy is. No one seems to think he's much, but I trust Rizzo that he's got something
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
like no one else is seeing. And so, it'd be nice to, I'm gonna keep my eye out for, are you seeing evidence of that? These guys kind of like finding some of these prospects that maybe are under the radar and you can develop them a little bit. But they're talking a big game about development monster and all this stuff. And it's like,
Yeah.
can you be like the Tampa Bay Rays and find these diamonds in the rough?
It'd be interesting if somehow Cruz had a breakout year, Lyle kept it up and Wood kept it up, then all of a sudden you have a really great young outfield. And you have CJ in the infield, and maybe if Harry Ford and Ruiz make a nice catcher split, they could do maybe if they could get Brady House. That's another top 100 prospect who hasn't really clicked. You get him going, then all of a sudden you kind of have something. If you got Hassel going, you could have Wood or Lyle DH, and then you have like a pretty decent young lineup. So we'll
Yeah,
see. Yeah.
I think, excited about what the potential is for the offense. I think more so than the pitching
Hmm.
staff. I feel like like you just mentioned earlier, you're looking at the like starting five now, especially with Gorgon, you're like, oh boy. Like, but you're like, hey, that's fine. If they go out and the young kids rake, or at least just show improvement, solid. Yeah, you get a breakout year maybe from a Cruz or one of these kind of prospects that doesn't click. You're seeing some improvement in the minors. You're like, all right, well, at least we're on the trajectory. You just want to see some kind of trajectory where you can kind of, oh, I see the vision. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
just like wandering around purgatory. Like, yeah.
So anyway, well, yeah, thanks for joining us. Let us know. Do you have anything you want to plug where we can find you on social media?
No,
Well, you're in a band now, right? Like they're going to be
I'm in a
touring or something.
band.
Okay.
Yeah, I am. But we're not touring the East Coast for a minute. Not till,
Okay.
so, I'll come back on in May when I have stuff to shamelessly self-promote. But
Cool. And for those who don't know, the song that you hear kind of in and out of this podcast is one of Bryan's former bands. So when your new band goes on tour, we'll throw the dates up here. Maybe you'll get some Talk Natsers or people on Twitter to come see you.
yeah, we're trying to get a show in DC put together for like mid-May. So,
Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah. Well, we'll promote that for sure. So anyway, as always, thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you soon for sure.
all right, thank you.
Okay, so that was our episode. And yeah, no, it was super cool though, that in our earlier talks with Bryan, we were talking about how the Nats needed a Jason Worth type, and then lo and behold, Drew Stewart and Tyler Clippard come on the show and basically confirm that. They basically were like, yeah, we came, a Jason Worth came to the Nats. It changed everything. So yeah, it was cool to kind of have that thread. So I think, next episode, we're going to continue on some analysis of the Gore trade and get into the Nats system and the spring training roster they're bringing to West Palm with a Twitter X account. Most of you know Nat Source, who's very up on things with prospects. And I think we're also probably going to have a few other former players in the mix as we kind of gear up towards the start of the season. But yeah, as always, subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on X at Talk Nats Podcast, and go to shopoldc.com and go to talknats.com. And as always, thanks for listening. And until next time, go Nats.